two guests in today's show. Coming up in a bit, we'll get to Gil Moore of Triumph. The Triumph documentary is finally going to be able to be seen in the U.S. We'll get information from Gil about that. That will be coming up very, very shortly. But let's talk right now to Bruce Kulick, our good friend who's been on with us a bunch of different times, celebrating today, KISS fans are, the 30th anniversary of what is, as I was saying earlier, widely considered to be the best album of the non-makeup period of the band. That album, Revenge, which came out on this day in 1992. Hard to believe it's been 30 years. And Bruce was a big part of it, of course, as a member of the band at that time, and he joins us live now. Bruce, how are you, man?
Hey, I'm wonderful. Thank you so much. Thanks for keeping the rock music info out there, Eddie. You do a great job.
Thank you, Bruce. Well, you do a great job making these commemorative videos that you've done a few of them now around these records that you're such a big part of, including the one that you put out today about the making of Revenge. Tell me about putting that together. Are you good on computers? Because when I look at stuff like that, I'm like, I would have no clue how to edit anything or put montages together or upload or anything. I'm terrible with that, but you seem to do real well with it.
Well, thank you very much. I literally, if it wasn't for the pandemic, which I still think is a sucky thing to happen to the world, but because of that, I remained creative, okay? And I remember a dear friend of mine in LA once showing me a music video that he did on iMovie on his computer, and I was like, you did that? You know what I mean? But I didn't have time to delve into it, and that was probably 10 years ago, you know? So here we are in the pandemic, and I got more creative with all the techniques and learning things. But I'm so funny because I'm literally, very, very jealous constantly of the people that can do things in that manner that are, they have more sophisticated programs and they can really be very, 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 almost like a real movie production, But I think I do the best I can take iMovie, if you know what I mean, because it does have limitations. And I use GarageBand for my VO, so I'm giving a nice Apple shout out here, even though there's lots of options out there. But I think what happens and why it works, Eddie, and thank you again for the compliment, and a lot of people, I share it with people who are pros in the business and they enjoy it, is that it can tell it's sincere. I never try to overhype. I never try to, say things that don't, I'm not looking for any controversy. I'm just trying to be honest and tell my story the best I can, and I am limited a bit to how I can, what's available, if you know what I mean. I wish I had better photos. I wish I had even more audio. I wish I had every instrument. I wish I had photos of us in the studio. So I implore your listeners, it's worth the slightly over almost 12 minutes of my creative take on the making of Revenge, celebrating 30 years. But it's very personal to me. It's my experience with the songs. I couldn't cover everything, but it's done where I think everyone's entertained with what I know how to do on a program like that. And sometime I'll show you that it's not really that hard, but it takes a lot of patience, and it really is a beast. And that's why I usually check out when I know I got to do one. I tell people I got no time for anything for like 3 weeks to edit the pictures, find them, put them together, make your music choices and everything. But this record meant so much to me. I know you and my fans know that Revenge was just a tough time for the band, but what came out of it was really quite spectacular.
Do you feel, Bruce, that it's the best record you made with the band? You made a bunch, but do you feel is it your favorite of the studio records you made?
And it's going to be a controversial response because I remember when I was at mixing of the record and I said, oh my God, because I'm a perfectionist, I love 99.9% of this album. You know what I mean? I love everything about it practically. But the point is, there's that fan that I love Asylum. You know what I mean? Crazy Nights is my favorite, or Carnival of Souls, or of course, they just dig deep into the makeup albums, and maybe one of the non-makeups is third or fourth on their list. But I just think the experience of it, us dealing with the tragedy of Eric Carr, starting with a soundtrack song, God Gave Rock and Roll, triumphantly, putting together a great record with a brand new drummer in a really terrible time for the band. to deal with that, and to have Ezrin, who had a lot of experience and Kiss experience and talent, to keep us, really focused. Gene really coming back to the front and center kind of finally after, all the controversy of him being not focused on Kiss. So in those manners and everything I learned from it, and to have something so magical come out of such tragedy and everything, I do always feel like that was my favorite record for the band, the best release. But it's not a slag to any of my other work that I'm known for that I love too.
The person who managed the band 30 years ago at the time of Revenge coming out was Larry Mazer.
Correct.
And as you know, and I've known Larry forever, and I know Larry was recently on our friends Three Sides of the Coin on their podcast, and I've heard him say it there and on many other places that the key to Revenge and the biggest thing that he said to Gene and Paul when he was meeting with them about coming on as a manager was that he needed Gene back in the fold. What was missing was Gene. He needed Gene's full focus, attention, involvement. And Revenge is significant in that not only is Gene's contributions great, but it was the first time, and I don't know how long, that the first single was a Gene Simmons song, which of course is Unholy. So can you shed any, being in the band yourself, I mean, do you remember being in the studio and on the previous records, maybe the difference between Gene's involvement on, say, Hot in the Shade or Crazy Nights or Asylum versus when he was on board with this? Because if that holds true, then this was really the first time you had the full Gene experience in the studio as a member of the band.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, on the previous albums and my time joining on 84, the band might have had a management firm, Glickman Marks or whatever. But once Larry Mazer stepped in, which was really right before the Hot in the Shade tour and everything, I believe is when it started, there was someone that didn't have anything. He didn't care to insult somebody, to be right in their face. Gene, don't stick out your tongue. Don't do this. Gene, you got to, get more involved. Be a part of the band. Stop letting just Paul do it, kind of thing. The rise to it, them putting the makeup on it. Larry did a great job in really telling from his fan managerial point of view how he saw Kiss, and I loved it. I'm still very good friends with Larry. He doesn't get enough attention in the Kiss-tory world, okay? You always think of Bill Aucoin, how could you not? And now Doc McGee with all the years and all the fame he's had working with Kiss. But Larry, he should have been mentioned in the A&E special, and he wasn't, but I got to give big props to Larry Mazer. And I remember talking to my wife, Lisa, about Larry, saying, like, I don't see any press. I don't have any photo. I know Larry was managing us, but I can't find a quote. In my video, I was pretty clear. If I said someone states or I'm, giving the critics reviews, I'm taking them verbatim from press, actual black and white paper, magazine things, from the publicist, But you're right. Larry must have had that conversation with Gene. Was I there for it? I don't remember, but he must have. And that must have put a little fire under his ass.
And Larry is also very adamant in interviews that he's done that he wanted the second single from Revenge to be Domino, and he couldn't because Gene said it wouldn't happen because there was no way Paul was going to allow two songs in a row with a Gene Simmons lead vocal that weren't his songs. And Larry is adamant in everything that I've read and talked to him about this, is that that he had to cave to Paul and come with Take It Off second. But if Domino would have been, I just want it, right? I'm sorry, I just want it. That if Larry would have gotten his way and Domino could have been the second single, that the ultimate story of sales and success at that time for Revenge could have been radically different. Do you agree?
All right. Who knows? Do I think Domino might have gotten more because it does have maybe a bit more of there's something really unique about Domino and everybody loves it. That's why I always play it whenever I can, They probably would have done the radio edit for it, not that when that bitch bends over for it, you know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
Common folklore here around the world of Kiss was they probably would have gone with Domino and realized, politically and everything. I mean, I Just Want is a great track, and it's, I thought the video came out great and everything. But Larry could be right that it could have helped sales. But I really think, I'm not saying this to water it down, because it's the timing of Revenge was not favorable for us to get that platinum record instead of a gold record, Eddie. Music was changing. Grunge was huge, and our tour wasn't as successful as I believe it should have been, and that forced really Unplugged, conventions Unplugged, and then the reunion, okay? So I come out of this amazing record with these guys, with Bob Ezrin, with Gene, killing it. There's no fluff from Paul on Revenge, okay? You know what I mean? His songs were fantastic, but the point is music was changing. So it's really easy to look back and say, oh, if Domino was second, it would have been a platinum record. I don't know, but I do know that finally everybody was really pulling their weight, and instead of it being only Paul, like a Crazy Nights album or some of the other records, Gene comes front and center and really, that Unholy video, boy, that freaked out people. Now, again, that's not like a radio hit. That's like a way to make a statement, and that video was dark and crazy, and what an amazing song. But yeah, Domino could have been maybe a more AOR kind of like rock radio hit.
So the other interesting thing, so given that that history shows that what ended up happening was Unholy came first and then I Just Wanna, the other interesting thing about that is Revenge not only marked the return of Bob Ezrin as a producer with Kiss, but it also marked the return of Vinnie Vincent in a writing capacity, and the first two singles from Revenge ended up being co-written by Vinnie. Unholy is a Simmons Vincent, and I Just Wanna is a Stanley Vincent. Was Vinnie Vincent ever actually there during the recording of the record, and did you know him or meet him around this time?
Well, I met Vinnie actually years ago in New York, when probably even pre-Kiss years for me. So it would have been the 80s, because he was East Coast. I think he's from Connecticut or something. He worked at one of the guitar stores, and I knew some of the bands that he worked in. And, of course, then I knew about his, role in the band for Lick It Up. Vinnie's a talented songwriter. I wasn't involved in any of the conversations with them saying, like, let's reach out to Vinnie Vincent. You follow what I mean? Because of all the controversy. Was I surprised? No, not when it came to, well, could they write some good songs together? Sure. I never saw Vinnie at the studio. I don't really know if he was ever there. And obviously I was there a lot of the time, because it was such an important thing for me to do what I could for the record. But his contribution as a co-writer was valuable. I didn't cover it in the video because I didn't have a lot of recollection or anything that I thought I could really show with photos and really explain. But there's no doubt that Vinnie's contribution as a songwriter was important for Revenge. And then they had another falling out that I know too. And since that was like, that part I kind of witnessed. I'm overhearing a phone call, you know what I mean, where they're arguing about things, okay? And I'm like, I guess, that's not going to work. You get what I mean? But yeah, I'm not surprised, and I didn't take it as a real threat. I didn't feel like all of a sudden they're going to go to Vinnie Vincent to be in the band. I knew I was the right lead guitarist, but Vinnie had a proven track record writing songs with those guys, and that goes a long way with Gene and Paul. I always contributed riffs. I mean, by Carnival of Souls, their focus was like they didn't know what to do. So suddenly I'm co-writing 9 of those songs. Well, that's because I came up with riffs that were appropriate to that formula. With Revenge and Ezrin, I remember Ezrin hearing a song that I had that I don't know if he just missed it or whatever, but we already chose the songs. He goes, "What's that?" Oh, well, it's something I was hoping we could record, but it was way down. It was way too late, But I'm happy I got my one co-write. If I can just blow my horn a bit with Tough Love, not a single, but track 3, and it got featured a bit in my video too, But what can I say? That also showed a real commitment to making the best record possible. Even though they didn't, get along with Vinnie at the time, they still reached out to a talented writer, and Vinnie realized I'll contribute, I'll get it. But I never saw it. I don't know how the writing sessions went. No clue.
I just pulled up the Wikipedia page on the record, which I've never looked at before, and interestingly, it credits Vinnie Vincent for the guitar intro on Unholy. Did you know that?
Yes. I was aware that, and I asked Gene point blank once, and I love this on your show, Eddie, because it's fun to talk about this kind of Kiss, the Kiss minutia kind of nonsense, right? And
I love
Gene
it.
Looked at me right in the eye. That was me. Now, was he telling the truth? I don't know.
Wait, Gene said that's him playing the part?
Yeah.
So it's not Vinnie. So he's saying it wasn't Vinnie, or you just don't know the real answer?
I don't know the real answer.
Yeah.
I'll see you next week. I could ask him.
Well, right. That's a whole other thing, which we can touch on if we have time real quickly. But and the other thing I didn't know as I'm scrolling through this page is that we all know this was Eric Singer's debut with the band in terms of playing on a Kiss record. But Kevin Valentine, who's made a number of ghost appearances on Kiss records, played the drums on Take It Off. Do you know what that was about?
Yes. Now, you got to remember that, and a lot of people don't know this, Eric Singer was like the drummer for Alice Cooper for quite a few years, and we kind of worked, it worked to our advantage anyway to do the album, like recording sessions in sections, like two halves sort of. And I don't remember all the details with the calendar, but the point is we worked around to get the drums, Eric's schedule, okay, with Alice Cooper, all right? And I remember he did cut Take It Off, not a, it's a great song. That was with Kane Roberts from Alice's band on, he was the guitar player, right? He co-wrote that. But the point is, I think the drums, Ezrin was brutal with anybody. You know what I mean? And you can read
that's his history.
I didn't play guitar on Every Time I Look at You. Dick Wagner did, which I'll tell that story in a second, and so we can get the record straight. But anyway, Kevin Valentine was one of those Los Angeles go-to guys that we all knew. I think he played a song on Hot in the Shade, so there's the relationship, never considered to be really in the band. And Eric Singer didn't care. He knew that, look, I got another gig. I'm not official member. I'm not on salary yet with Kiss. I'm just their drummer. And then in the timing of all those things, I can't remember exactly when was Eric Singer officially announced. When was, you know what I mean? It was 30 years, over 30 years.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No doubt.
Right. And the official story about Dick Wagner, who I am a huge fan of. Oh, my God. My brother and I, he was the guitar, it was Hunter Wagner, which is when Bob had those opportunities to do dual guitars. That's what we wanted to be, Hunter Wagner, okay? So, and that's the Alice Cooper, Lou Reed, guitar duo, and that's how, with Meatloaf, that's how we sold it when we were the touring guitarist for Meatloaf. So real quick, I remember I had a weekend off. They were in the studio. Dick Wagner was in Los Angeles recording. Very dear friend of Ezrin, of course. Very, very well respected by Gene and Paul. And I remember they wanted to get Every Time I Look at You and another song they were actually thinking within the family of Mercury or whatever that was back then, Polydor, Polygram, whatever, to go to another label, and they wanted to play a couple of songs, and if they could finish the ballad, which is a beautiful song, let's get it done. That's my recollection of that. And they asked Ezrin to play it. Dick Wagner to play it. Now, I knew everyone's relationship, my respect for Dick. I looked at it as like, I was still butthurt. How could you not be? But I'm like, I don't think I could beat that solo. They even let me try. You know what I mean? It was like, no. Now you go listen to Unplugged and listen to the way I interpret Dick Wagner's solo, and you would think I played it on the record. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
So he even used one of my guitars. It was one of those kind of Karina Gibsons that I heard. And yeah, I was hurt, but this is Kiss. I was a ghost guitar player. You know what I mean? My brother was a ghost guitar player, and it's always, I remember I worshiped the Beatles growing up, and, that's Eric Clapton playing on something. Why isn't it George Harrison? You get what I mean? So I accepted it, and I had to give credit to Dick Wagner, of course. I didn't get into it in my video. I didn't have time to do. I'd love to do an hour on Revenge, you know what I mean? But you know how much time goes into just under 12 minutes, okay? A lot of time.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. And Dick Wagner, his history as doing ghost stuff with Ezrin is very long, going all the way back to the second Aerosmith record and Train Kept a Rollin', which Ezrin executive produced. Yeah, and that's a fact that came out. And there's other. It's interesting too, just to tell the audience that you've got Tommy Thayer on this record on backing vocals, Jamie St. James from Black and Blue, of course, and of course Jamie and Tommy were in Black and Blue together, both doing backing vocals. So I never looked at this page. It's interesting to see. These aren't always accurate, but to see all these credits.
I did a little cross-referencing with Wiki, with KissFacts.com, which is a very popular site where they bring up a million things. I know they talk about Jesse Damon being a big part of things, and he was in one of the bands that Gene produced at the time, Silent Rage, I think. So, yeah, there were people involved, and obviously when they did those big gang vocals for songs, that's when some of those other people would be involved. I saw the engineer names and I added them to my YouTube, thing. I didn't get a chance to thank everybody. So on the YouTube, where you put your description, you could add all these names in there. You know what I mean? But, wow, I wish I had more info, and I wish I had more. A friend of mine who's an archivist, my friend Michael, he shows me, here's the only pictures I could find of you guys in the studio, and it was a fanzine from England that came to visit us. The pictures were absolutely dreadful, very weird, black and white. No, it doesn't, you know what I mean? Nothing I could use. I wish there was. But what could I say? The memories of doing that album, though, are pretty. There are certain standout things. The gear, I share that. I share guitars in the video. I play along. That was something that came up on brushing my teeth one night. I say to Lisa, I got to play in this thing. I have to. I love it.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
That was great.
No, you know how I said it, Eddie? Who else can do it? And do it right. You know what I mean?
Right.
I play the actual, what it is. So then it was like, we're filming, whatever it was. It was a Tuesday I came up. We're filming Thursday. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And there I go. I said, do I wear the hat? Do I not? It was one of those funny things. No, wear the hat. You don't even look at the camera. Just do your playing. And that's the story. And I've had some friends comment to me how they love that. You know what I mean? Instead of me talking, I got my VO on the video. But the playing part, nobody else could do that better than me. So I'm really glad I put that in there. But all these other things you're touching upon, I couldn't touch upon all of them in a 12-minute thing. I drive myself crazy. Or give me a budget and give me a year to work on it.
Right. Of course. Bruce, I got like 5 minutes left. I want to give me a minute or two on the tour for the record, because the tour, I remember I was at the very first show of the tour. It was in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, if I recall, at Stabler Arena. And I remember for me, that tour was really, I remember that it was difficult because, Eric Carr was always my buddy, and he would always send me laminates and a tour book and the routing and come out anytime, and we'd hang. And of course, that was the first time he wasn't there. And I'll never forget this as long as I live. People may be shocked by this, but this is the God's honest truth. Gene picked up on that when he saw me before that show. And he actually was super cool and took me for a walk of the stage before the doors opened. And I could tell it was just kind of like, he knew that I hung with Eric, I think, a little bit, and he knew that it was weird at the time and whatever. Nothing against Eric Singer, but just, there was a key guy there that was my guy and that we used to hang. And I'm sure that was weird for the band too. But aside from that, the tour itself, the Statue of Liberty thing, going out and playing the songs from the record live, what's your recollections about the tour for Revenge?
I just remember I loved the stage. I thought it was great, having that kind of like escape from New York, like futuristic vibe of destruction. It looked a little bit like the cover of Revenge in a way, if you were going to make a theatrical kind of picture of it. And to think that we could create that big of a Statue of Liberty that then in the ending with some pyro and bombs and whatever, it turns into the Terminator, with the finger, the FU finger. I think it was a classic Kiss stage. I mean, the technology that they carry now is completely different what bands can do with the screens and pods and lights and all of that. But I still stand by the staging of my era of that band, that I thought it was absolutely over the top and amazing. I love the set list. I mean, I think more of a Live 3 when I think of the Revenge tour, because that's what it came out of. Even though a few of those songs, as you know, we only did it sound check because we realized the label and we need I Was Made for Loving You, even if we're not doing it for Revenge. It's not the Revenge tour album. It's just called the Live 3. But I just think we played great. We did a good balance of songs. I thought the stage looked amazing. Unfortunately, it wasn't super successful, and that's why it wasn't so long, unfortunately. But I'm real proud of that tour.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. I remember. Yeah, I remember going to a few shows on that. So before we wrap up here, you referenced this before, this Creatures Fest thing coming up, which I'm not going to be at, but there is a ton. I mean, it is like every surviving former member of KISS is going to be there, and there's going to be people playing with each other, and it's going to be Ace and Peter, which will be, if they play together, it'll be the first time since they played for me for a radio thing for my radio show 9 years ago. So there's some real buzz about that. You're going to be playing with those guys. I know you're doing your thing with your own band because I'm going to be out in Vegas next week. I'm going to see those guys, but I know there's a bunch of different things going on, but can you tell the audience a clear vision in a minute of what you're doing?
Sure. Well, first of all, I mean, for a 3-day event, it's quite this is the ultimate KISS experience, obviously, to have four, I have to say former KISS members, but, when you're part of the KISS family, that's a lot of clout there, especially with Peter and Ace. And then, of course, Vinnie, who hasn't been really very public at all in a very long time. So to have the four of us there is quite a feat. So the promoter, he's a big fan, and he just wants to put on the best event possible. Friday, there's going to be a special, Unplugged thing that I'm going to sit in on, okay, where the Unplugged, album will be played by the poolside. Saturday's the Vinnie Day, so I get to play with Vinnie, and then I get to play with Ace and Vinnie, okay, calling that the Holy Trinity, which is pretty funny. I may sit in with Chris Jericho, our buddy, on the afternoon of Saturday. I don't think anybody knew that before, but I'm letting that out of the bag now because he loves my era and he plays some of those songs. I think you know that. In Quarantine, great guy, right, by the way. And Chris is such a trip. I love the guy. And then, of course, Sunday is actually my night where my meet and greets and my lunch with my fans is, and that's when my band will play. And I will say, of course, because we're so close to this anniversary of Revenge, my set is really based on the Revenge album, okay? And what can I say? I know Peter plays with Ace, and he's going to play with his band from Australia, Sisters Doll, as well, I believe.
Right.
Things like that are happening, I hope I didn't let anything out of the bag too much here, but if you don't have a ticket for this, you want one, okay? That's what I'm saying if you're a KISS fan. So I'm looking forward to it. It should be a very exciting event. And one other footnote I wanted to mention, I was always curious to see if KISS
I got 30 seconds, Bruce. They're going to clip me in 30.
KISS,
go ahead, real quick.
Is featuring Revenge merchandise. So you can go to the KISS site and order, records and T-shirts that are Revenge.
That's shocking. You're telling me that KISS Online is selling merchandise? Come on.
Well, selling KISS Revenge merchandise. Okay.
I know.
Okay.
They sold Elder merchandise, too. They'll sell anything.
Well, but if it's my era, I take notice, okay?
There you go, as you should. Hey, man, great to talk to you. Thank you for the insights. Everybody check out Bruce's video. It's online now. I shared the link earlier. And I'll hit you up next week. I'll be out there in Vegas. I hope to see you.
Okay, wonderful. Take care, Eddie. Great talking to you.
See you, Bruce. Bye-bye. Bye. There he goes. Bruce Kulick, everybody. Check it in on Trunk Nation. Back with Gilmore next.